Hi guys, welcome back to HMJ. This video is an addendum to the video titled The Problem with Music. I realized I had to make this addendum because I was mulling something over during the editing process. By the time I had completed my mull, the video was already uploaded. I had gone through several attempts at recording the video and it had already taken roughly a week to edit. That video ended up taking a month to produce, so I have no plans in re-recording it, especially considering what I was mulling over is of minimal consequence to the quality and accuracy of the video. Unfortunately, regardless of the extent of the consequences, there was a mistake in my video. It was an error regarding the clarity of my terminology. It's not so much that I don't defend one of the arguments that I've made or the definition of the terminology that I've used. However, there is a term that I essentially coined in the video that, due to a lack of clarity, may cause an issue when it comes to the definition I assigned to it.
We're going to call these two rhythms double-dotted rhythms because that's how they appear on paper, since they consist of at least two dotted quarter notes or eighth notes, depending on how they're written.
I said the words double-dotted rhythms, meaning the terminology I attempted to coin, so to speak, is double-dotted rhythm. In order to explain my error, I first have to explain the concepts that I attempted to coalesce into the definition of the term by defining each word within it. For starters, this is a dot. Dots do a certain number of things in musical notation depending on where they are placed. They are most commonly found directly on top of or next to a note. If one is placed at the top of a staff directly above a note, it is called a staccato. Staccatos shorten the length of a note roughly by half its value, though it's often expressed curtly with a quick cutoff. If one is placed to the right of a note, it's just called a dot. I'm not sure if there's a technical term for it. I'm sure there is or was, but we just call it a dot. What a dot does is extend the duration of a note by half its value. To demonstrate its application, I'll be using a quarter note. A quarter note in a 4/4 time signature is worth 1 beat. This is because in a 4/4 time signature there are 4 beats per measure and the quarter note is the one that denotes the beat. In layman's terms, this is a basic 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the quarter note is so named because it is 1/4 of the length of a whole note. The value of these notes is ultimately determined by the time signature, which is why 4/4 is the most common time signature. It's simply easier to think about rhythmic division and subdivision when everything is divisible by 2. Now, let's put a dot next to this quarter note. As I said, the dot extends the duration of the note by half its value. In this context, the quarter note has a duration of 1 beat. By putting a dot next to this quarter note, I've added a duration of half a beat to this note. This dotted quarter note is now the duration of a beat and a half. There is a way to notate half a beat, and that's by cutting in half the note value that's designated to be the beat. In this context, that is the eighth note. The eighth note is, of course, half the value of the quarter note, and because we're in 4/4, it's half the beat. Now, let's go back to the quarter note. I want my rhythm to contain a note that is longer than a beat, but shorter than 2 beats, which is notated with a half note because it's twice the duration of the quarter note. I could introduce what is called a tie, which is a curved line that connects 2 notes of the same pitch. This is one method of notating the duration of a single note within a rhythm. Carry over the pitch to the next division or subdivision by means of tying 2 note values of the same pitch. The problem with this in certain applications is that the music would end up looking messy, which is why the dot exists. There's a time and a place for either the tie or the dot depending on the time and place. This looks absolutely horrendous. So the first error I made in the video is not explaining any of this in order for you, the viewer, to totally understand my terminology. The reason I didn't do this is because I wanted the first video to be short, simple, and to the point. However, I didn't take the responsibility in guiding you through my thought process towards reaching this conclusion. Furthermore, I said the words, "that's how these rhythms appear on paper," with the full expectation that you, the viewer, would understand what those words meant. I also didn't think it was my responsibility to do a music theory lecture on rhythmic notation. My reasoning for this is that there are so many online tools, including ones here on YouTube, for learning musical notation, and I just assumed that you, the viewer, were responsible for finding those tools on your own and being learned on the subject prior to watching the video. My negligence didn't strike me until I was in the editing process. However, I felt justified in not going back to edit the initial video on account of my burning out when trying to make it, since it had taken me several attempts to record the video and a week to edit it, which culminates to nearly a month of work. The lack of responsibility I assumed for the viewer's lack of knowledge is tantamount to laziness. If I could do what amounts to a lecture on musical notation now, I could have done it then. In addition, my physical and emotional burnout is not a valid excuse for an incomplete product. No institution accepts that excuse because the result is still an incomplete product, and even then, clear and concise works go through multiple editions prior to even initial publication. In future videos, I will do my best to be as concise and informative as possible, even on a simple topic, to avoid these simple mistakes. This brings me to my next error, which requires returning to this dotted quarter note. Let's say I have a rhythm that requires extending the duration of this note without it being the entire duration of the second beat. I could tie this note over to another subdivision. If half the duration of the quarter note is marked by the 8th note, then logic follows that half the duration of the 8th note is marked by the 16th note. You can already see the issue. This is an absolute mess. The solution? Add another dot. The added dot denotes the extension of the duration of the note by half the value of the previous dot. So, since the previous dot extends the quarter note by half its value, which is the 8th note, the added dot extends the value of the quarter note by half the value of the previous dot, which is the 16th note. This note is now double dotted, meaning this quarter note has the length of itself with an 8th note and a 16th note added on, which is the value of 1 beat plus half a beat plus a quarter of a beat, totaling a beat and 3/4. In theory, I could add dots infinitely without ever approaching the next beat, since the limitation of beat subdivision is literally 1 over x, where x is greater than 1. I'm not lying to you. This is the root of my second error. In simply saying the words double dotted rhythms, I left open the interpretation of my terminology. One could be confused if I simply stated double dotted rhythms, because the phrase double dotted rhythms may imply that either the rhythms contain double dotted notes or that the rhythms themselves are double dotted. The former is a possibility for misinterpretation, and the latter doesn't make any sense, and either is a gateway for confusion. This is more of an issue for the people that do understand musical notation, and so the avenue for confusion is left a possible road to take. So I apologize if such confusion ever arises. This is a result of my not editing my work previously. At the time, I thought this terminology would be justified, as I believed I had thought it through, and again I assumed that you, the viewer, would be able to extrapolate from the missing information. So, lack of clarity regarding my terminology despite previously existing information is the culmination of my second error. My second error is a result of my third error, which explaining it requires another return to our dotted quarter note. As we've established, the duration of the dotted quarter note is a beat and a half. Now, I want a rhythm that sounds driving. I can't rely on landing on the beat too often because my rhythm would be too square, or it would just be the habanera. Or Apache. I could settle on the habanera, but I'm not feeling that in my song, but I've already used up almost half the bar. I could repeat my previous note so I don't specifically land on the third beat, but now I've already used up most of the bar. Where could my rhythm go? Well, I could accept my fate and land on beat 4. After all, it's not beat 1 or beat 3, and my music really depends on the feel of 2 and 4. Then I could just loop that over and over. That's something. That's how our first nefarious rhythm is constructed. What if I want to continue our dotted quarter note venture? I'm out of bar space. Let's welcome back our friend, the tie. We can rewrite our dotted quarter note by breaking it down as its basic components, moving the 8th note to the next bar over and tying the quarter note to the 8th note, connecting the last beat of the first bar to the first beat of the second bar. Now we can continue this rhythm until we reach this impasse at beat 3. We could have a true bossa clave and make something out of that. Or we could wuss out and have the rest of the rhythm be beats 3 and 4 because I really need beat 4 for some reason and I'm not feeling very Latin. What if I wanted these rhythms but my song has a slower feel? If I write these rhythms this way, the song will feel even slower because the metronome is slow enough as is. Welcome to diminution. If you can cut note values in half, you can cut whole rhythms in half. Just cut your primary note values in half and shift the rhythm over. Now you can have your whole rhythm in 1 bar or half a bar. This is from where my third error stems. Considering that these rhythms are not defined by any certain note value and no rhythm ever is, I assumed I could get away with saying double dotted rhythms because of the minimal succession of dotted notes. I call these rhythms double-dotted rhythms because they are usually expressed by either a minimum of 2 dotted quarter notes or 2 dotted eighth notes in succession. The word double was supposed to indicate that succession of repeating dotted notes, not the number of dots the longest rhythmic duration contained. However, again, I did not make that clear, and I assumed that you, the viewer, would understand that. The onus is on me to clarify that. So the errors that I made was that I assumed that you, the viewer, had knowledge of music theory and musical notation. Because of that, I did not take time to clarify one of my points. Because I did not take time to clarify that certain point, I initially didn't run into the error of my personal term coinage. And because I didn't realize the error of my term coinage, I was not initially poised to correct that error. And in not correcting that error, I developed terminology that is at best ambiguous and at worst confusing. As a result of these errors, I wrote this addendum, and in it I aimed to resolve all of the errors. There is just one last thing to do, which is to update the terminology of which I assigned the previously established definition. That definition being a rhythm which comprises a succession of a minimum of 2 dotted notes purposed for de-emphasizing the third beat of a 4/4 time signature, intended to create a feeling of driving excitement. That term is no longer double-dotted rhythm and will now be dual-dotted rhythm without the hyphen. This will be my terminology until further notice. Of course, you don't have to take my word for it. I am not an authority on the subject as I am still technically its disciple, but I hope that this video clarified this certain point that I made on the previous video. Again, in the future, I will fully detail my points so as to not create any room for confusion or ambiguity, and I will do my best to be as clear and concise as I can possibly be. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. I hope it was informative for you and not too pretentious, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon.